Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I have Michelle Claire. This is a guest that was kind of offered up through Aiden. Everybody knows who Aiden is. And it's so nice to talk, shop with somebody else. Very rarely do we get to have high vibrational conversations, and I truly believe that this one's going to be just one of those ones that feed our soul. I'm going to actually turn it over to her, and she's going to give you a little synopsis of what she does on her channel, how to find her, if she gives readings, all of that stuff. So go for it, hon.
Well, thank you. I am Michelle Claire, and you can find me on YouTube on Mondays. I do Mondays with Michelle Live, so people can put a question in and I will answer it on the chat. I also have my conversations in the light, a membership, a website, michelleclaire.net, where people can book readings. I have galleries and group readings, but the way that I work, I connect with angels, loved ones in spirit, life guides, soul plan information, psychic information. So my readings are very interactive. People come to me a lot of the time when they have questions about what's next, what do I need to do, which direction is calling me, what's blocking me, what's stopping me, what's the holdup, all of those things, right? So I just love to be able to connect with individuals and their spirit team to help them move forward in their life.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, as everybody knows, on my channel, I'm a political reader, so but she's not. So we're not going to talk politics, but we're going to do an interview. But I'm going to do like a little mini interview and I want to ask her. I know that I read a little bit in your bio that you had three oh, what are they
Near
called?
death
Yeah,
experiences.
near death experiences. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, a near death experience, for people who aren't familiar with that term, is when something causes your life to come to completion and then you get to touch the other side. You have experiences, information, and you're back in your body. And so, for me, I've had three of them. I started as a medium around the age of 12, not knowing I was doing mediumship, but my grandfather passed and he and I were still communicating. So I would share that with my mom, and my mom would say, well, that's what you would think Grandpa would say if he was still here. And then as time went on, I ended up having three different NDEs, all for different reasons. The first one was connected to a seizure, the second one was connected to a surgery, and the third one was connected to a traumatic brain injury. But what happened, and I'm going to talk mostly about the third one, in that third one, I had 14-foot ceilings in my house, and about 12 feet off the ground, I had battery operated candles. So I decided I was going to climb up the ladder, change the batteries. I'd done it a million times. And as I started getting to the top of the ladder, I felt the ladder start to shift. And I remember literally thinking, this is going to hurt. And in that moment, I was truly pulled out of my body. I was turned around facing the ladder and my body suspended in the air. And I was standing with three people that I didn't know, but they felt like close family or friends. There was an Asian man, a Hawaiian man, and an Egyptian woman. And as I was standing with them, I was in the timeless space of heaven. I felt all of this unconditional love. And they said to me, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And as I was in that space, I remember thinking, well, this is interesting. I have forever to decide what I want to do when I know my body's going to hit the floor in a second. So I was trying to understand what was happening. And as I was looking at my body and the ladder suspended in the air, this beautiful angel came in dressed in this deep red and gold. And the moment I saw that angel, I knew, oh, it's here to either take me home or to shift something so that I could stay. And then at that point in time, my attention was brought to my kids. And when I saw my kids, I was like, oh, I'm not done being their mom. Like, I want more time here. So as I made this decision, I was downloaded with a bunch of information and I was told, okay, you can stay, but you need to go back and do your mediumship. You need to work with people and help them in the way that you can help them. They told me that my marriage would most likely end in divorce and that I had more trauma ahead in my life. And I remember being in that heavenly realm and listening to this and just being like, okay, send me in. Like I wasn't worried about it at all. And they were kind of predicting all of the things that human Michelle was going to be really worried about handling. So I come back into my body. I fall off the ladder. I hit the back of my head on the corner of my granite island. So I had a 5.5 inch skull fracture. I had a brain bleed. I lost my taste, my smell, my equilibrium. It was quite the traumatic brain injury. But what they found at the hospital was that I had literally survived by 1/2 inch because that was how much I had missed my brainstem by. And I knew immediately that was how much the angel had moved my head. That was the difference of me staying here or going home. So I had a lot of physical disability from this level of trauma, and it took me a long time to start recovering. But moving down the road, what I found out is those three people who were so nice and loving, they were my life guides. And that's why they were there. They were telling me that I could leave, but if I stayed, we had a deal and I had a soul plan to come back. They were right. My marriage of 25 years ended in divorce. My ex-husband could never get on track with me stepping into my mediumship and helping people in that way. And talking about even further trauma down the road, again, unfortunately, they were correct because I fell in love again. And this was the man that was going to be my life partner and I was going to spend my life with. And a little less than 3 years ago, he passed from suicide. So
Oof.
they were so clear that I was not going back to rainbows and unicorns. And yet I remember that I wanted this experience. And I think that's so important for people to know because life isn't easy for anyone. Everyone is going to have different challenges, whether it's the family you're born into, the abusive relationship, on and on and on. But it's not because we're forced to be here on a personal level or on a soul level. Our souls choose to come here to experience the contrast and the growth and understand lessons that we wouldn't comprehend in that heavenly realm.
Right. I always say this. I must have been extremely stubborn up there because they taught me to come down here to just let that stubbornness go.
Yes.
Too many experiences. That she's too stubborn.
Yep.
Well, that's something, that's something you and I have in common. My husband also passed by suicide. His
Oh.
was through PTSD through the military. He went to the war. He was first boots on the war in the war with Iraq. Uh,
Hmm.
so he had a lot of PTSD. There was a lot of issues there, but yeah, surviving is suicide is completely different than kind of surviving somebody who we know who's going to die, or even a just sudden accident. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We just relinquish that thought of, well, there's nothing there can do. However, a suicide, we're like, I could have said something, I could have done something. Why didn't they notice? I was so upset with spirit. Like, why didn't you tell me? I could have
Yeah.
stopped the bullet, right? And
Right.
so I also have that a little bit of something in common with you. But anyways, I would really like to kind of ask a few questions about that. Like there's a lesson in there that you kind of do for the public, but is there something that you really got out of your near-death experience where you kind of had a clarification or something like that that you just even hard to speak about or even to describe?
Well, it would be this that I had a clear understanding that this life was not going to be easy, but I wanted the opportunity to come back in and experience it. And I
Mm,
think this is something that we so often forget. The other thing that I would say is that we're not being judged. There is not a God over there who is judging you
no.
and you are going to get sent to hell or that you are, whatever these ideas are that are old thought patterns that are not accurate. And so, really being able to touch that heavenly realm and realize like I truly had a choice to be here. And I know
Yes.
it. And that being here is a choice. And that being here is also a huge opportunity because we have so many souls lined up on the other side that want the chance to be here. Believe it or not, no matter how challenging this life is, on a soul level, it's like the winning lottery ticket to get to come to planet Earth and learn and grow and move through these challenges. And especially, like you have kind of said before, to be here at this time. This is
Hmm.
not random. This is not accidental. And so, what my near death experiences taught me was actually the preciousness of life and the preciousness of every moment on this planet and the relationships and the small things, enjoying your hot cup of tea, watching the birds sing. Like, it doesn't have to be that you cure cancer, but can you be present? And can you find that peace within yourself? Because the ripple effect of that will affect so many around you.
Correct. I've never had a near-death experience. But I can understand what you're kind of saying is it gives you a higher level of understanding of how precious life is. People can tell you life is precious, but almost lose yours, see how precious it really is, right? So I can definitely see that. So I'm going to kind of shift a little bit to another question that is, have you ever met someone whose story made you think I have absolutely no explanation for that?
Ah, so have I heard a story where I've thought that? I'm sure I've heard many, and usually I just laugh to myself and I go, "Oh, that's spirit world."
Right. So I think that the angle of this is that we're human as
Right.
well. And
Mm-hmm.
we are not we get a lot of information, no doubt. But just to realize that we don't have all the answers. If we had all the answers, we would be spirit. You
Right.
know? And I think that's a good thing. So when you talk about that, um, you just not know, how do you describe that to somebody? How do you let them know, like, I don't know what that is?
Yeah. Um, so usually, here's the thing, we are not supposed to know everything. And just like with my life partner's suicide, I was not given information or a heads up. He did everything he could. No one even knew. We knew he had depression on and off. No one knew he was in that state or getting close to that point, right? Because he has his own soul plan and experiences that he was meant to have. And obviously, mine was intertwined in that because that was an experience that I had. But some of the stuff is literally just above our pay grade. And
Yeah.
one thing that I do know is that when I'm doing a reading for people, most of the time I'll get answers. Once in a while, I don't get the answer. And that's really clearly because we're not meant to know everything in our human form, because it will alter possibly the lessons or the decisions that we're meant to make in that situation.
Yeah. I always come across this. I don't think the energy has made the decision yet. That's what I always think. And like, I don't think the
Yeah.
energy has clarified what the decision is on that and that whole thing. So I definitely get that. All right. So do you think souls continue to learn after death, or is learning something unique to a human being?
So that we always continue to learn and grow and evolve, but it's different on the other side. So on the other side, when we're in the heavenly realm and there's all this love and light, I can't imagine literally in the heavenly realm the trauma of losing a loved one to suicide. I can comprehend it and I can empathize with it, but I can't actually physically imagine it into, embodiment. And so what happens is, we're continuing to evolve and learn, but when we choose to incarnate to planet Earth, this is the difference of being in the driving simulator versus boots on the ground in LA 5 o'clock rush hour traffic, right? We are now going from, I can imagine LA 5 o'clock traffic is really tough. I can imagine that you get frustrated, you get whatever. But when you're in it, it's a little bit of a different story. And so the evolution of our soul will always continue, whether we're in this dimension, another dimension, the heavenly realm. We continue to evolve and grow, but it will look differently depending on what we need and where we want to go.
So, on the other hand, do you believe that if the soul was enabled to comprehend or grow here, do you think that's also something that they're doing on the other side?
To continue to grow on the other
To
side.
not grow.
Oh, um, here's the thing that I know about the light or that heavenly realm. We're always encouraged to grow, whether it's by guides, other loved ones in spirit, our soul family, our angels. Like there's always an encouragement. Can it be forced? No, just like no one is forced to be on this planet at this time. It can't be forced, but it's natural. It's kind of like looking, they're showing me right now, spirit showing me a sunflower. Unless you put a brick on top of the sunflower seed, it wants to sprout and grow. It is the natural evolution of that
Mm-hmm.
seed, right? So, can they choose to not continue to grow and evolve? Yeah, because they have free will and spirit form. But after like 10,000 years of feeling like you have a brick on your head, you might want to try something new.
Right. I totally agree. We do have a natural form to want to grow and to experience everything that's here on Earth. I'm pretty sure somebody learned that and figured out how to harness that at some point in time in that. Do you think I'm like a Gemini throughout the whole time I've ever been alive or
I
come
love
down?
that.
Or do I come, you know what I mean? It's like have fun. Do
Yeah.
I just jump all over or
Yeah. So here's what we know. We have preferences as a soul. Our soul prefers to be female, male, incarnate on planet Earth, incarnate in another planet, incarnate in another dimension. Your soul might prefer to be Gemini, but it's not going to do it every time because that's going to be boring, on a soul level, right? So we definitely have soul preferences. Like I know my soul prefers my female lifetimes. The male lifetimes I've had have not been great. I prefer to be a female, you know. But as far as like our personality and the personality that survives death. So this is kind of the way that I see our soul, very much like this picture behind me. Think of it as a sun, a burst of light. And basically, the light that is the incarnation of Michelle in this lifetime, that ray, that will continue throughout eternity. But when my soul decides it wants to come back in or go somewhere else, it will create a new ray of light. So our personality and characteristics will survive. However, we step into that beautiful higher self that we really are meant to be. So often when I'm doing a mediumship reading, the person coming through will tell me, look, I was an alcoholic. I was very mentally abusive. I was this or that. That's not who they are now in the heavenly realm. But if I'm reading for someone, I'm like, oh, dad's the most amazing man. They're going to be like, no, he wasn't. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive.
yeah.
So they will give me their personality characteristics so that their loved one knows, oh, yeah, that's who I'm connecting with. However, that's not who they are once they graduate this earth realm.
Right. And I also believe that a lot of times we incarnate with people who have that life lesson that we need. And so they have to play a role, I have to play a role, and therefore until it's done, that contract is up. Now brings me to another one. How many contracts have you ended in this lifetime that you've really recognized like that went full circle and that contract is complete and then, go on to the next?
Yeah. Oh, quite a few. I can't even honestly name them all or put a number on it. But so contracts in lifetimes, like some of them are just for this lifetime. Some of them are eons old. Some of them are 100 years, 200 years old, right? So what's happening through the evolution of our soul and relationships that end, jobs that end, lessons we learned, we are check the box, check the box, check the box in the lifetime, like complete, complete, complete. Not every box gets checked because we come back, we have more work to do, we have more relationship stuff we need to figure out with each other and lessons to learn and things like that. But as long as you are on the path of evolution, and not everyone is, because we can look around and we all know people who choose to stay stuck in
Hmm.
their life, stuck in their story, stuck in their addiction, stuck in whatever they're choosing to stay stuck in. Hey, they're not going to have as many boxes checked at the end of this lifetime as someone who is actively engaged in doing their work and figuring out their blocks, their patterns, their shadow self, and how they can really embody the most amount of light in this lifetime. So the way that I see it is every time I get lucky enough to check a box, I get to almost bring more of my whole soul or my oversoul into this body, into this lifetime, more wisdom, more light, more understanding, more compassion, right? And so our goal is not actually to bring heaven to earth, because we have chosen to have an earthly experience, right? So we want this to be earth, but our goal is to embody as much of our soul and our light while we're here as possible, because that's what helps level up the consciousness, the collection of people who are compassionate, and on and on.
I totally agree with that. All right. So as we round this up, I have just one last question. If you had to describe your higher power or your God to somebody, what would you say?
Oh, wow. I would say I'm in service to the light, because every time I was in that heavenly realm, there wasn't a vision of a god or a deity that was the higher power. It was literally the light. It was the light in the leaves, the light in the ocean, the light coming from within. And so when I think of God, source, the light, it's the light. The higher power is the light, which is this brilliant, warm, all encompassing, benevolent love that our human mind can't even begin to truly comprehend.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to ask you questions as I fumbled through it, but we made it. We made it.
We did.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And if you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. Also, go check out her channel, see what she's got. So, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.